going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited because your Dallas Cowboys, my Dallas Cowboys, our Dallas Cowboys are 3-1 thanks to their latest victory, a win over the Washington Commanders. Today is Monday, October 3rd. Yes, it is October 3rd. I know you asked, bit of an inside joke for anyone who's seen one of the most popular movies of the 21st century, but whatever, because it is the Monday following a Dallas Cowboys win. It is Victory Polo Monday. You may or may not be actually wearing a polo, but as long as you're wearing one in your heart, that's really all that counts. So today we're going to take a look at 5 things, however you want to title this. I'm going to write about this as well, bloggingtheboys.com. Basically, 5 things we didn't expect to be the case. 5 things that have kind of surprised us. 5 things that have really just happened for the Dallas Cowboys through this winning streak of sorts that we didn't anticipate, that we didn't expect. And some of this is fair. Some of this is unfair. In fact, I would argue that nobody expected all 5 of these things to be the case for the Cowboys through their 3-game win streak, a period of time that includes a win over the reigning AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. But I digress. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, Cooper Rush. How can we start anywhere else? The first quarterback in Cowboys history. I almost said quarterback. First Dallas Cowboys quarterback to win all 4 of his first starts. Cooper Rush stands alone. He has been exactly what this team needed. And I mean that in ways beyond the obvious. Obviously, Cooper Rush has been a quarterback who has been able to help the Dallas Cowboys team as a whole win 3 games in a row. That's plain and obvious. But he's also been somebody who's been capable of executing the offensive game plan that the Cowboys have put together without Dak Prescott. Now, I know there are some of you who feel like Cooper should start ahead of Dak Prescott. I think that's silly. I don't think that we should devote any time to that idea. But Cooper has driven the bus. Cooper has, I think, been the perfect quarterback for the team to evaluate themselves offensively. Cooper has been sort of a sample size, a focus group, if you will, for Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy to say, wow, we don't have to rely on Dak Prescott to be this hero. We don't have to purposefully design situations where Dak Prescott has to carry us. We can build an offense around an entire team, and the quarterback can make some difficult throws the way Cooper Rush has. I don't want to act like Cooper Rush hasn't done anything, from a quarterbacking standpoint, but if you're Mike McCarthy, if you're Kellen Moore, if you're Joe Philbin, if you're everybody involved in the offensive game plan, you have to look at what is happening here and recognize that you do not have to put everything on Dak Prescott's shoulders. I know the run game wasn't there for the Cowboys against the Commanders, but it's more of an overall thing. You can play out of 12 personnel. You can ask for help along your offensive line. You can ask those tight ends to block. You can ask your star running back, Zeke Elliott, to block. You can give your quarterback more time, more effort, more opportunity. And that's something that we've seen the Cowboys do for 3 straight weeks now, which is something that I hope we see when Dak Prescott returns because, and I say this with all due respect to Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott is somebody who can take much more advantage of those things than Cooper Rush has been able to. I recognize that Cooper has won every single game he's been in, but he's also had some really lucky moments. You can argue he should have thrown 2 interceptions against the Commanders. You can argue that the Cowboys really didn't do much offensively against the Bengals. Yes, Cooper was able to engineer some fourth quarter game-winning drives against Cincinnati and even against the New York Giants, and did so last year against the Vikings. But Dak Prescott doesn't put you in that hole, especially if you're giving him the help around him that you're currently giving Cooper Rush. So that's number 1. Number 2, Dan Quinn, the man Quinn, has found ways for his defense, for this defense, to survive regression. There are a lot of Cowboys fans who refused to believe that regression was going to come for this defense from a turnover standpoint. The Cowboys had something like 1,000 turnovers last year, right? That was never going to happen again. It just wasn't. There's 100 years of history, 100 years of data, 100 years of evidence to support the claim that regression to the mean happens to NFL defenses year to year, particularly in the turnover category. We've seen many defenses not just regress as far as turnovers are concerned, but regress as far as overall production is concerned. Remember, before the 2021 season started, we thought it was so silly that NFL minds and NFL pundits were saying that the Washington football team, that was their name at the time, could repeat as NFC East champions. Because we were sitting here saying, well, that defense from 2020, it won't stick. That doesn't happen in the NFL. What happened a year ago? The football team at the time's defense not only regressed to the mean, but went even further than that, went all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum. That is not happening to Dan Quinn's defense. Yes, turnovers are down, although the Cowboys did have 2 interceptions on Sunday. Shout out to you, Carson Wentz. Love you. But the Cowboys defense is finding different ways to contribute. They are finding different ways to be successful. We're seeing more 3-and-outs. We're seeing more quarterback hits, more quarterback sacks. So while turnovers are down, I would love turnovers just the same way you would. Takeaways are something that you can kind of survive without. And that sounds stupid. I will always take as many takeaways as I can get. But if you're sacking the quarterback, if you're making 1st and 10, 2nd and 17, if you're making 2nd and 17, 3rd and 21, All those things add up. You're playing field position. You're maximizing your opportunity. You're helping your offense in ways that are more hidden than taking the ball away, even though the Cowboys are now starting to do that on the regular, which is exciting. Trayvon Diggs, by the way, has interceptions in back-to-back games, so good for him. Now, I mentioned something that wasn't necessarily obvious. Number 3 on this list, lesser obvious areas of the team are more dependable. What do we mean by that? Well, with the exception of the one punt on Sunday, Brian Anger has been a phenomenal punter for the Dallas Cowboys. He was a Pro Bowler a year ago. We obviously know that. But, and I will eat all the crow in the world on this. I've said this many different times. I will continue to say this because I was wrong. So I want to make sure that I mention that every single time because Brett Maher has played so well. Brett Maher deserves all the props in the world. Brett Maher is 10 of 11 on field goals. Brett Maher has missed 2 kicks this year, and the only field goal attempt that he missed was the sequence at the end of the first half against the Giants, which was really rushed. It was really quick. It wasn't really formal. Plus, it was outdoors. It was a long-range kick. I don't really fault him for that. And yes, he missed an extra point on Sunday against Washington, but it was blocked, and then he chased things down and made the tackle himself. So Brett Maher, think about that, has been reliable, right? The Cowboys have been in a position. These 3 games, I know that the Cowboys won comfortably against the Commanders on Sunday, but they have been close, right? These games have been close. Before Dallas kind of blew it open against Washington, they certainly played the Bengals close. They certainly played the Giants close. A big reason for success in close games is when you can rely on things like your place kicker. And that was a big reason why I harped on this position all throughout last year, because the Cowboys were reckless by trusting Greg Zuerlein. A reliable place kicker isn't just the obvious reliable place kicker. It is a point of trust. It enhances your offensive capabilities because you know how aggressive you can or can't be, because you know that you can or cannot trust your kicker. The Cowboys have been able to trust Brett Maher. That is mass. It's such a massive thing. It isn't as big as CeeDee Lamb scoring touchdowns or Michael Gallup catching a touchdown in his first game back. But the fact that the Cowboys can rely not just on their kicker, but on their punting game, on their return game. We haven't seen Kevontae Turpin take one to the house yet, but we all think that that's coming. The fact that they're able to rely on their defense. If you're Cooper Rush, or if your job is to make Cooper Rush play as well as possible for the Cowboys, think about it. You can trust every phase of the ball that he is not involved in, and that is something that really is sort of a rising tide that lifts all boats. So shout out to the Cowboys in that respect. Next up, number 4 on our list, aggression is working to the Cowboys' advantage. Now, I said at the time, I said in our postgame show after the Cowboys beat the Giants, that I was not a fan of the way that Mike McCarthy handled the end of that first half that led to the aforementioned Brett Maher miss. Now, that being the case, I love how aggressive Mike McCarthy has been. This is something I've always loved about Mike McCarthy. We're never going to agree 100% with anything. So there are moments that we think it might be too much or might be too little, whatever the case may be. But Mike McCarthy has kept his foot on the gas. He has trusted this offense, and it's not just going for it on 4th down. We saw the Cowboys do that early against Cincinnati. We saw the Cowboys do that late in the game against the Giants. Shout out to CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys have kept their foot on the gas, not just in going for those things, but in playing aggressive, right? In throwing the ball and going downfield and challenging. The first play of the 4th quarter was, I was going to say Dak Prescott, was Cooper Rush going deep to CeeDee Lamb. With the game in question, it looked like the Cowboys were going to try to just take, a couple of runs and hopefully try to knee this thing out against Washington. They went deep. They picked up a pass interference penalty. I love that about this team. I love that they're not afraid to go play action. They're not afraid to throw the ball downfield. And I love that particularly, and this is kind of about Cooper Rush, they're not afraid to trust him. And that is something that many people have talked about throughout this winning streak. I know that Bob Sturm has written about this in The Athletic. Generally speaking, for most of forever, the Cowboys with backup quarterbacks have turtled up. The Cowboys have said, man, this backup quarterback's in here. What are we supposed to do? We're just going to have him check the ball down and hand it off a million times and hope that that's enough. This year's Cowboys have said, to hell with that. We're going to play as aggressive as we want to play. We're going to trust that Cooper Rush can make the throws in the pivotal moments. And to Cooper Rush's credit, he has certainly done that. So shout out to them. Shout out to him. Shout out to being aggressive. And right now it is working in the Cowboys' favor. Finally, number 5 on this list, the soft schedule has stayed that way. What do I mean by that? Well, the Cowboys have played 4 games. All right. They've obviously lost one of them, and it was to the Buccaneers. I am somebody who did not believe in the Bengals being this top tier AFC contender this year. We kind of saw that play itself out. Obviously, the Giants and Commanders have been in a bad place as far as general team success for a long time now, right? Not just last year, the last 2 years. It has been a very long time. The Giants haven't won this division in 11 years. The Commanders have been through all sorts of things, obviously, and it made sense that they were going to get better. In fact, I do think that the Giants and Commanders are better this year than they were a year ago. They just were that bad. But they have not bridged the gap enough. And I do not in any way say this to take away from the Cowboys' wins. You can only play who's on your schedule. And I think you could find holes in any NFL team, any team who's 3-1, or even the 4-0 Eagles. You can point at wins that they've had and you can say, well, they really didn't even beat anybody. That's just kind of the case with this year's NFL season. And the Cowboys, luck or whatever you want to call it, the soft schedule has not grown in quality. The Giants, the Commanders have kind of stayed status quo, and that has helped the Cowboys be able to survive this. Now they have a very difficult 2-week stretch coming up on the road against the LA Rams, and then obviously on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. Then it lightens up just a bit. You get the Detroit Lions at home. I know they're kind of good. They have an offense that can score, but kind of a coin flip thing. And then you get the Bears. So it really is about buckling down and getting through this next little quarter. It used to be so great when the NFL season was 16 games long. You could actually look at it in quarters, but the 17th game ruins the math. Either way, these next 4 games are very, 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 very important for the Dallas Cowboys, particularly the first 2. If they can go 1-1 in this 2-game stretch against the Rams and Eagles, they set themselves up for all the more success. And to be clear, if they were to lose both those games and go 0-2 right now and fall to 3-2, they're still ahead. This did not seem possible. The fact that they have gotten to 3-1 to this point, with all circumstances considered, has bought them an enormous amount of time and has kept them very, very, very firmly in the mix for the playoff chase in the NFC. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. You can send me an email, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have the best day ever. The Dallas Cowboys are 3-1. This polo is just kind of the song that's in my heart. I had a half cheesecake on our post-game show. I'm still feeling the aftermath of that. It's been a difficult 24 hours for me, but I would do it all over again because anytime the Dallas Cowboys win is certainly a very good time. So, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We got our roundtable show live Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Hope to see you there. Subscribe to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel, and have a great day. Thanks for hanging out.